Hey, hey, we've got the new TLR 22 3.0. Is this new buggy the top dog? Stay tuned, you're about to find out. Okay, before we get started with the review, I just want to share a couple of quick stories with you guys. The first thing I want to say is, I want to give a big shout out and say thank you to my friends over at Pacific Coast Hobbies. I really wanted to get this review out super early. In fact, this car, I've never had so many people ask me for a review as I have for this particular car. I tried getting in touch with the guys over at TLR and Horizon, and they just, I don't want to bore you guys to death with the story, but the long story short is they strong-armed me. They said the only way they would get involved is if they had the opportunity to review my review to ensure technical data was correct. And I told those guys, I said, look, I have a credit card. I'm getting the car when it comes. So the only thing you guys can do is you can either help me get the review out earlier so that all of us can see it before Christmas, or you can not. And so they chose not to, and they just said no. But it doesn't matter because my buddies over at Pacific Coast Hobbies, Theo, went out of his way. He offered to actually give me the car, but I didn't. I bought it. But anyways, I just want you to know that I just want to say thank you to my friends over at Pacific Coast Hobbies. I always encourage everybody to buy locally. I really think you should support your local hobby shop and track. But if you are going to buy online, please give my people some consideration over there. And I just want you to know that it's because a lot of good people like those guys that you're seeing this video as early as you are. So that's it. Let's get on with the review of the TLR 22 3.0. Hey everybody, Jason here. I'm back. It's been a while since we've done a kit review, but I've got the new TLR 22 3.0, the new flagship buggy from Team Losi Racing. This is really pretty much the pinnacle of two-wheel drive buggy technology at this point. Let's go ahead, get this thing out of the box, and then we'll walk through my personal kit and we'll get on with the review. Okay, let's take a second and unbox the new TLR 22 3.0. You can see I got this from Pacific Coast Hobbies for $329. They're one of the very few places that had this in stock when I wanted to get it. And I only buy it from a few different places online, Pacific Coast Hobbies being one of them. So let's get this thing out of the wrapper and see what comes in the box. It's probably sealed up if I had to guess, and it is. All right, so here we go. I guess the first thing I see is the body. Not a bad looking body. It's not as bad as the original 22 body, but I'll probably end up getting something a little different. I'm not a big fan of this back section. The roof line and the windshield doesn't look bad, but I'm not a super big fan of the back of the body. And I really wish they wouldn't have stepped the side guards, but anyways, we'll talk about that in the review. Looks like there must be like some type of a piece probably for the body. I'm guessing that this goes something like this so that you actually have the third rib or whatever. Let's see what we got here. 22 Buggy. Looks like it's got the shocks, shock caps, all the parts and stuff like that. And I really like the Losi shocks. The coating, the carbonitride or whatever the coating is they put in the shock shafts is really, really nice. The machine shock parts are really nice. Looks like this one actually comes with X-rings, so TLR does a really, really good job with their shocks. So next, looks like the transmission bag. Yo-ho, the D-bag. This is the transmission. Looks like there's an aluminum top shaft, slipper plates, transmission cover. Of course, it's got that nice, like, two-stage machined motor plate. It's, you know, they obviously machine it, anodize it, then remachine the edges. Okay, we've got the wing, and this is really one of my favorite wing designs, and they finally got rid of the two little ridges that run down the length of the wing just recently. And so this is by far probably my favorite 10 scale wing, and obviously it comes with the kit. Bag C, looks like it's, again, another nice touch in this kit is that it comes with all the aluminum ball stud washers, but we have A-arms, hubs, looks like wing mounts, things like that. Front some aluminum bits and pieces and stuff like that. Looks like the, okay, arm mounts, all that kind of stuff. So here we've got bag A, and this is the, looks like the side guards, front bulkhead or pivot, top plate, all that kind of stuff. Bag B, this looks like it's steering parts, front arms, front shock tower, turnbuckles, all that stuff. tuning parts. Oh, it looks like it's got some parts that you can actually tweak on it. It's got some pills for the inserts. Looks like there's another kick-up brace, wing washers. I'm guessing that this is maybe, what, a battery mount or something? I'm really not sure what this piece is, but I guess we'll find out later on. Then last but not least, and this is, you know, I dig this. I'm not a huge fan of yellow wheels, but I'm a huge fan of the fact that TLR sends the kit with 2 complete sets of wheels. Of course, the battery strap, body clips, wheel nuts, things like that are right here in this bag. Chassis. This thing is, it's different. It's a little wider this time. They made rooms that you can run the battery in a transverse fashion. There's been a lot of updates to this car, and we'll talk all about it in the review, but here's the chassis itself. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and see if we can rip through this and get this thing out so you guys can have a little closer look at it. So here's the chassis itself. You can see it has a part or a serial number on it, the relief for the servo and all the lightning and stuff like that. So definitely looks a little bit more durable in the back than the last generation car, the 22 2.0. So, all right. And last but not least, the stickers, and then of course the instruction manual. So that's it. That's what you get when you unbox a TLR 22 3.0. Okay, so this is my TLR 22 3.0, and you can see that this is the new stock body, and this is really the best body that I've seen TLR release for one of their actually kit platforms. Now, even though this is the best body, and I don't think this body's ugly or hideous or anything like that, it's definitely not my favorite. I feel like the windshield is just a little bit wide, as you can see. It's got a little bit of a broad windshield on it, and the cab is pretty tall. And so let's pull this body off, and I'll show you which body I'll be running. This is a super light. This is the super light thin version of the new J Concepts S2 body, and this thing is just super slick, super sleek, nice narrow windshield, so that's the one that I'll be running. But let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the car. Okay, you can see that I've got the J Concepts titanium fin turnbuckles. This is actually a Spectrum 6240, basically a shorty version of the servo. Of course, my Airtronics 92744 receiver. Forgive the wiring, I actually went through a couple of different speed controls trying some different configurations, but this is an LRP Flowworks team, and I really, really like the way the LRP speed controls drive. I may end up putting LRP, there's basically 2 speed controls I really like, and it's the LRP Flowworks team and the Hobbywing 3.1. You can see the battery strap actually has room to put stops in there so that you can control battery position with set screws and basically placements, hard stops. But I went out and I just spent a couple bucks and I got myself a B5M foam kit, and I just really like using the foam better. I think it looks cleaner, it's more secure, you don't ever have to worry about anything moving. This is a Reedy Mach 2 7.5 turn motor. And of course, it's all outfitted right now with J Concepts dirt webs with Dirt Tech inserts, and the car has just worked really, really good. The one other feature that I probably haven't mentioned yet is these TLR wings are absolutely amazing wings, and now that they got rid of the little air ridge that they used to have molded in, this wing probably has literally 20 battery packs on it, and you can see that it's not broken or cracked or anything. They hold up really, really well. So that's about it for my car. And of course, I also put on a TLR chassis film. And one last thing, let me just zoom in real quick and show you this real quick. I ended up using the aluminum servo horn for the steering link, and you can see that there's a little gold nut on the back. Of course, when you put a metal ball stud into an aluminum steering horn, you should use a little bit of Loctite. But that's actually just a good old-fashioned 440, a gold 440 nut from an old Associated kit, just to make sure nothing moves. Just a little tip for making sure everything stays nice and secure when you're out there on the racetrack. Okay, let's talk about the build. Overall, the build went okay, and I've built quite a few of these 22 base platforms. I built a bunch of the old 2.0 buggies. Of course, I have the 2.0 stadium truck. I actually built 2 22 3.0 buggies, and let me just tell you about some of the issues I ran into. There are a few spots in the manual where the screw size isn't exactly what the screw was in the bag, up in the front. There's a few spots where, like in the steering rack, the screws were so tight going into the steering rack that they were squeaking and creaking, and I ended up having to take them all the way back out and add a little bit of chapstick just to smooth it up. In the rear suspension, where you're actually bolting on the shock tower, it definitely felt like no matter how tight the screws got, you could still see that it really wasn't connected. In the diff gear and the transmission, I ended up having to use a body reamer to get the ball bearing inside the diff to actually get into the diff gear. The build was just plagued with a lot of little things like that, and it was a little bit discouraging, to be honest with you. The overall quality of the parts seemed really good, but even when I got the front suspension all assembled, made sure that all the screws were in nice and straight, nothing was, obviously over tightened. It still wasn't loose, so I had to take it back apart and kind of file the edges and make sure everything was... The fit and finish on this kit just wasn't as good as I'm used to on a lot of my other past builds for my TLR cars, and that's happened on both cases on both 22 3.0. So I'm not exactly sure what was going on there. There are little things like needing to use a body reamer on each ball cup before you put the turnbuckle in, and that's really not a big deal. But in general, I thought the build was okay, but it just wasn't great. I mean, this car is known for having, there are some highlights to this build. I think the shocks on this car are absolutely amazing. The carbonitride coating on the shock shaft, the oversized shock shaft, the fact that this car comes with all machined shock bushings and stuff. Huge benefit. X-rings, but in general, this time the build just really wasn't as good as I had really hoped that it would have been. I do like the fact that TLR has done some things like molded some of their pieces with aluminum inserts and things like that, which is really nice, but still, overall, the build, the best I can say on this time is the build was good, definitely not very good or great. Oh, as a side note, I've built a bunch of TLR diffs. Traditionally, the diffs on my TLR cars have lasted a really long time. They take time to really come up and get smooth and break in because they probably use really good second operation hardened parts. But the diff on this car just doesn't seem to be lasting as long as the diffs on my previous cars, and I'm just not sure why. So, all right, that'll do it for the build. Okay, let's talk performance. Jumping, landing, acceleration, and braking. This car comes with 2-hole by 1.5 pistons up front and 2-hole by 1.6s in the rear, a yellow rear spring and a silver front spring. Overall, I thought out of the box the kit was pretty good. It definitely felt like it was a little pushy in some spots and a little lazier than I would have wanted it to be. Come to find out, a lot of the factory guys are running a different spring package. Most of the guys on clay are running something like a low frequency pink rear spring and either an orange or a red front spring. So basically they're going up in the rear spring and down in the front spring. I've played around with some Kyosho stuff, I've played around with some TLR stuff, and I will tell you that the car has gotten really good. The acceleration has been really good, braking's been really good. Landing, I don't know if it's because the car is just quite a bit lighter or that we're not running brass, but there is no question that the car jumps, lands. It seems to do everything better, but I've kind of experienced this thing that's kind of funny. Some of my friends that have built this car have just fallen in love with it. In fact, my buddy Nathan that races here locally, I will tell you that when I drove his TLR 22 3.0, it is arguably the best two-wheel buggy I've ever driven, ever. Just amazing amounts of steering, amazing amounts of traction. When the car even does start to slide in the back, it's so utterly predictable that you never question where the car is going to end up pointing. So the car has the ability to be absolutely stellar. But I've also seen guys coming from the 2.0 that have really struggled to get the car to respond the way they're used to, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because the car comes with a 3-gear in the box. I don't know if it's because we were using a car that had a lot more weight in it in the old version of this car. Either way, I will say this. The car has a pretty good setup out of the box, and it can be made to work on a lot of different surfaces. I recently just purchased a 4-gear transmission setup, and I didn't purchase it because I thought the car absolutely needed it or had to have it. I purchased it because I'm really picky about the way my cars feel on the track. I want a car that I can drive for 5 minutes as punched as I possibly can, and I think sometimes having the tuning options, the 4 gears, and playing around with your suspension package can really get your car to that point. So I would say out of the box setup is actually very good. Clearly with the 3-gear, the whole idea is to keep the car from pitching aggressively, under braking and acceleration, and it does that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with building a 4-gear transmission and leaving it in your parts case. That way, if you want to, create a little bit more tunability or drivability on a variety of different surfaces. So overall, I would say the performance is very, very good. Okay, let's talk durability. All of these new generation cars, the RB6, the B5M, the TLR 22 2.0, and now 3.0, have proven to be really durable platforms. Some a little bit more durable than others. But I will say this, out of the box, I have found that this car, while it is durable, it is not as durable, number one, as the 22 2.0, and it's definitely not as durable as the B5M. And it's only a couple of key parts, luckily. So when these manufacturers build these cars, they spend thousands and thousands of dollars to make molds. And so if they mess up a plastic part, it's really expensive to modify and change that part. Lucky for us, there's two parts that seem to be breaking on the back of the TLR 22 3.0. The rear suspension pivots, the aluminum arm mounts basically. What happens is you'll have a bad impact, and the arm is so strong that when the hinge pin rips out, it'll just chip off the edge. It'll rip the pill out and it'll chip off the edge of the suspension holder. And then the rear camber link mount, as you can see right here. And I've actually just been notified by some of the guys over there at TLR that they are making changes and that they are updating those parts to make them more durable. And what's cool is because these are metal parts, not plastic parts, I'm sure the very next production run will be new, updated, and beefier. So I wouldn't say the car is fragile by any means. The only other breakages that I've really seen, I've seen an 8-scale buggy land on one and break a rear shock tower, and I've seen a couple of breakages like that, but those are nothing that I thought, nothing out of the ordinary. I think overall, I think the car is very durable, but I think that because those aluminum parts weren't as durable as they should have been, it kind of maybe hurt a little bit, but once they've got it fixed, I think the car is going to be very durable, and I think the car will work very, very good. So overall, we'll call it durable, get those aluminum parts fixed, and then very durable for durability. Let's talk aftermarket. This car, all of the high-level cars, Kyosho, TLR, and AE, and I would argue really the TLR and AE cars have a huge aftermarket. All kinds of companies out there like J Concepts that are making all these amazing new bodies. Of course, you saw in the video walkthrough that I have the titanium fin turnbuckles from J Concepts on this car. Shill Racing's making all kinds of parts, including slipper parts, ceramic bearings. They've got some really neat new black ball stud washers that are going to be going on this car very soon. Of course, titanium front axles. Just really, I mean, MIP, of course, with pucks and whatnot. So the aftermarket support for the top tier cars is really unmatched. And it's really another reason why I think that most of us should try to focus on running the top tier cars, just because it gives us so much more tunability and just support in general for these platforms. But the aftermarket for this car has been absolutely amazing. In fact, let me take a few minutes and show you, the body that came on this car. I know I've probably already mentioned this, but the body that came on this car is clearly far better than any of the previous kit bodies that TLR has released. But now you see that J Concepts has released, obviously, their new S2 bodies, and they've got two different versions. They've got the regular version right here, and then you can see that there's even another one that's even lighter. It's got this green film on it, and this is a super lightweight version. And I'm sure that as guys race these cars more and more in stock and just look for that little drop of that, every last drop of performance, they're going to look to all of these aftermarket companies just to make these cars lighter and faster, at the end of the day. So huge aftermarket for these cars for sure. Okay, let's talk value. You can pick up a TLR 22 3.0 on the street for about $330. You might be able to find a discount code or whatever, but you're going to spend $320 to $330. That's just what they go for. Now, traditionally, the last version of this car was $349, and then we ended up buying a cab forward body, a shorty chassis, a steering rack, and a piece of brass, and you were well over $400. So if you really want to look at it from one direction, you can say, hey, look, they've provided way more value in the box, and it's a much better deal. But on the flip side, when you just start looking at good old-fashioned metal and plastic, they're able to sell the 22T 2.0 stadium truck with two bodies, mid-motor parts, rear motor parts, couple sets of wheels, all for $299. So it's clear to me that if they wanted to sell this kit at a little bit lower cost, they could. They just choose not to. So from one side, it's a better deal, but clearly they can provide more value. When you measure this car up to other cars like the B5M Championship Edition or even the B5M Lite, which I think is probably the best value for a two-wheel drive buggy at this point, I think that the value on the car is really good, but I really wish that they would have priced the car at about $299 and included titanium turnbuckles. One other thing that I really don't like about the value of this particular car is that they changed the front wheel to a 12mm hex. And lots of guys like me that have tons of front wheels with tires glued up have no choice but to either put old hexes in the new car or scrap our old front wheels. I wish they would have just included some hexes in the box or an adapter or something like that. It's just kind of a downer. Either way, the car, I don't think the price is unfair. I think $330 for the car is fair. I just wish they could have created a little bit more value in the box. There's other companies clearly that are trying to put more in the box at this point, but I digress. When it comes to the other side, when it comes to like the driver support and the network, TLR is obviously very good. Probably doesn't have quite as solid of a driver support network as companies like Team Associated. But in general, I would say, I guess let's just call it like this. Let's just say the value is good, but it could have been a little bit better. In my personal opinion, for $330, I would have liked to have seen one of two things. Either A, titanium turnbuckles in the box, or at least aluminum rear hexes, because it's a real pain in the butt when you're taking the wheel off. You take the wheel nut off, you take the wheel off, and then the hex is stuck in the wheel. So just little things, but that's my opinion. All right, we're done with value. Let's get on with the conclusion. Okay, let's talk conclusion on my TLR 22 3.0. I think this is a pretty amazing car. I think they've done some really cool things. I love the idea of the variable length arms up front. I like the fact that they've clearly dedicated the car completely to mid-motor now, but they've still allowed for a 4-gear transmission. I think the car out of the box jumps, lands, accelerates, and brakes very, very well. I think it's a little bit of a departure from the last 2.0 Buggy. I think it does drive differently. It takes some getting used to, and I think that it's just going to take a little bit of time for everybody to develop setups that really suit their driving style, especially if you're coming from the last car. The 22 2.0 was probably my favorite ever Buggy to race in mod because it just had a really good balance of rear grip and steering and consistency. And so in general, I think it's good. At $329.99, I think the price is fair. I wish they would have included either aluminum rear hexes or titanium turnbuckles, just because other kits like the B5M Factory Light at $279 comes with a bunch of that stuff, and now the B5M Championship Edition, which comes with all kinds of stuff and tuning parts, and I've heard the arguments on both sides. I get it. If you go spend $325 on a B5M Championship Edition and you don't use any of the extra stuff in the box, then I guess that money's a waste. But the fact is that car does come with a bunch of aluminum goodies, titanium turnbuckles, Kashima coat shocks, and for the exact same price, basically, you're getting steel turnbuckles, plastic hexes, and unfortunately aluminum parts that aren't really as strong as they should be in the box. So in general, conclusion's very good, car's very competitive, and if you ask me to make a decision right here, right now, which car is the best car out of the box, I think that the Losi probably handles a little bit better out of the box, but I think that you're probably getting a little bit more for your money when you buy one of the other platforms out of the box. So that's it. That's been my review on the TLR 22 3.0. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video just as much as I enjoyed making it, and we will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Daniel West, number 1 spot, Andy Porter, keep back number 3, Chris Lutz, number 4, Mike Greer, number 1 spot. You got Randy Allen behind you. You got 5 cars first, and you got 8 cars now. The 17 moving away. Looks like Randy right behind him. And you got the Steel with the lead. All right, Joey. Yeah, right there. Bill. John and Harrison are coming out of line. So you're going to take that out of the straightaway. You're going to follow this one just to go this one. Everything's going to be in the water line. Randy Moore. So anything got all over the floor spot, and with that, everything got to go a little bit of breathing room, because Zero got kind of chased it in. That time, now on the line, 1 second separation. And Terry Carter going to the left of the ground. That was the shot the Foster unit right behind him up. Down the straight there we go. 17 on Zero. Maintain the second. Oh, Zero,
I just want to say thanks again for watching my videos. I appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this video, you'd be doing me a huge favor if you could either like, comment, or even better, subscribe. I post a lot of stuff on social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. So if you want to catch up with me, I'll post this stuff up for you, and you can come on over, add me as a friend, follow me on Instagram, and you'll be able to see things that just don't make it to YouTube. Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.